Right, which
the letting him on the plane. Like, that's pretty harsh for them to tell somebody like Richard Wolff, who's going to go and repeat it to Keith Olbermann, you know?
Right, which exactly backs up my claim that the sharp-dressed man was a U.S. government agent, 100%.
It sure seems to.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the media thing. Since this Brian Ross article, have you gotten any more attention other than from the alternative media on this, or is this basically just dead in the water like we could have predicted the next day?
No, not on that. I have gotten calls from the media and done some interviews regarding the Free Press article of January 29th, which dealt with the botched security after we landed, which I spoke out about that, too, immediately after we landed, and I was ignored in the press, too, up until this January 29th article came out, and then all of a sudden the press wants to talk to me about that. But in regards to the sharp-dressed man and these comments by government officials, no. The mainstream media is completely ignoring me on that.
Well, you know, we went from the system worked great because, after all, passengers beating up an attempted terrorist and preventing him from committing his attack, they're our last line of defense, which makes you wonder why they disarm all of us regular people. You know, we can't even bring a screwdriver on or nothing, but we're the last line of defense. So that was the system worked. And then the story was, well, there was a systemic failure to connect the dots here, and the intelligence broke down, and the cops, like always, hate each other and refuse to talk to each other, and so the NSA knew this and the CIA knew that, but they didn't put it all together in time. And now, even officially, according to an Undersecretary of State, in sworn testimony before the Congress and numerous credible media reports, they're the best version from the government's point of view of this story now is that, yeah, we let the guy on the plane because we wanted to follow him, but oops, we didn't know he had a bomb. That's really the best they can do at this point. Am I right?
Yeah,
that's the most charitable interpretation of this thing.
But then you have to question why someone was filming and what was his involvement. And if I could go back to that comment you just stated from Janet Napolitano.
Sure.
What I think is very interesting about that is she said the system worked. My interpretation of that is that it was a Freudian slip because the system did work. They let him on the plane to track him, catch people who he was involved with, and maybe they let him on with a defective bomb, knowing that intentionally. I don't know. But I think it was a Freudian slip by Janet Napolitano because this is just part of their system, letting terrorists on planes so they can track them. I don't think it was some outrageous comment by her. I think it was a mistake. In her belief, the system did work, just as they had planned.
Yeah. Well, then again, they're always going to, you know, the Unabomber's brother turns them in, and they claim credit for all their great police work that 16 years of failure, you know, so who knows. Well, boy, I got to tell you, I guess I'm back up against the media thing here. What about foreign press? What about the Guardian and the Independent? And what about, you know, Die Zeit? And what about the Italian papers and, you know, Japanese, the Australian?
Really, none of the mainstream media has contacted me at all. I have been contacted by some alternative media in various countries, and I've spoken to them, but not the mainstream press. And you have to ask why, too. If I'm some kind of crazy guy, wouldn't they just come out and immediately say I'm a crazy guy and there's no truth to this? Here's the video, look, it's wrong, you know, he saw something else, not change their story, have only one official version, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you have to look at all that, too, in assessing my credibility. And also, you know, the trickling out of facts that are coming out that are backing up the story that I've stated since day one. Mm-hmm. I've been vindicated on numerous fronts already. So, you know, I believe I proved my credibility, unlike the government.
All right, everybody. That's Kurt Haskell. You can read about him at mlive.com. The Detroit News here has been actually covering this thing. And you can check out his blog at haskellfamily.blogspot.com. Thanks again, Kurt. And hopefully we can keep in touch as there's more developments, if there are more developments in this story.
There'll be some more developments.
All right. Thanks a lot.
For having me.